Good day. Today I'm going to welcome you to Cleveland, Ohio, my hometown, where I'll introduce you to a rather wondrous work of architecture built at the turn of the last century and a celebration of older construction styles of masonry and heavy stone and brick and newer construction styles of steel and glass. This building is one of the United States' very first covered shopping malls, and as such, it creates a legacy for many others in the country. So we will discuss the origins of its style, its predecessors, its contemporaries, and some interesting features inside. First, we require the briefest of introductions to the style of the building, which is Romanesque Revival. On the left, we see the Parma Cathedral, begun in 1117 and taking a half century to complete. Very simple massing, block massing, round arches, blind arcades, and a simple square tower. At this point in time, designers and builders were reaching the apex of their limits in construction. The building on the right is a revival building by Henry Hobson Richardson, which would give the style its namesake of Richardsonian Romanesque. Notice groupings of columns, integral sculpture, polychromy, various colored stone, new materials, and most of all, a daring attempt for new types of massing. We'll find several of these elements in the Cleveland Arcade.
Hi, and welcome to Cleveland's old arcade building, designed and constructed by John Eisenman and the Detroit Bridge Company in 1890, in a style reminiscent of Henry Hobson Richardson's Richardsonian Romanesque. This is what's bold, tough, and amazing about this particular building, and elements that harken to the Romanesque style. You've got a very tough half-round arch, all of rusticated stone at the base, and then above this in the second story, lots of filigree carved in stone. Atop that, a grouping of small columns in short proportions. So this makes up a strong two-story base for the old arcade. Above this in the center, you'll see a grouping of 5 arches, 3 in the center, 1 on either side, and all of those are held aloft with strong, short, and squat Romanesque columns. Moving from the center of this and above those arches, you'll see bronze windows capped with another arch and held aloft 2 additional stories from the base of the building. The middle portions have additional bronze windows, and above those, you'll see additional groupings of short squat columns. Cornice work with decorative dentils, strong hammered stone lintels, and decorative motifs at the top all create a strong and bold Romanesque Revival expression.
Early 21st century architects, when renovating the arcade, took liberties with its design, but kept within the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines.
The entry portico of Cleveland's old arcade was put into place in 2001 at the opening of the Hyatt Regency. It was designed in such a manner that it respected the original construction. As such, the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines for historic architecture request that any new construction could be disassembled and removed quite readily to bring a building back to its original. So notice that this new entry portico of glass and steel is not attached at any point to the existing building. Rather, it is attached only to the sidewalk.
A glass-vaulted building in Milan, Italy, completed just 13 years earlier, inspired Cleveland's arcade. This building is the Galleria Vittorio Emmanuelle II, named after the very first king of the Kingdom of Italy. It was designed in 1861 and built by architect Giuseppe Mendroni, completed in 1877. This building has two giant glass-vaulted arcades that intersect in an octagon and is crowned with a dome. A similar building, completed just 1 year after the Cleveland Arcade, is in Naples, Italy. This is the Galleria Umberto I. While we're discussing Italy, I'll make a mention for comparative heights. Our arcade is 5 stories and 100 feet in height. 100 feet is nearly the exact height of Bernini's Baldacchino within the Basilica di San Pietro, St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. For a while thereafter, Cleveland had a fever, and the only prescription was more arcades. You can see on the left the Colonial Arcade, built in 1898, and on the right, the vaulted Euclid Arcade, built in 1911. They're connected since 2000 by a food court. In 1987, just a few blocks closer to the lake, Chicago architect Anthony Belushi built the Galleria at Erie View, a 200,000 square foot structure adjacent to the international style Erie View Tower. It harkens back both to the Galleria in Milan and to the Crystal Palace, shown here on the left, built with modular steel in 1851.
This is the south face, the Euclid face of the old arcade. The building itself constructed in 1890 in a Richardsonian Romanesque style, as is evidenced by the round brick stone arches, the diapering patterns, the brickwork, and the groupings of stone columns near the uppermost floor. However, in 1939, the famed architectural firm of Walker and Weeks redesigned the back face of the building, the south face of the building, using stylized classical elements and Art Deco motifs. So it's done in an Art Deco style that complements the Romanesque above. When one ventures from the outside of this 1890 old arcade to the inside from the North Superior side, one notes a marked distinction in architectural character, from heavy stonework, rusticated and tough, to a very light, delicate filigree of steel. The inside consists of a 5-story arcade, the uppermost 4 stories all containing balconies overlooking the central space. Notice brass light posts, railings, and at the uppermost, the spring line of the arches, you have griffins holding up the roof of the building. Most recently, all the glass was redone for the 2001 opening of the Hyatt Regency Hotel at this premises. Prior to that, the entire building was open for offices and shops. Nowadays, it's a modern hotel. So finally, note between the inside and the outside, a very tough and heavy character to a very light and airy one. Here we are on the south side of the the old arcade in Cleveland, the Euclid entrance. And this building was constructed in 1890 based on plans produced by John Eisenman, local architect, and built by the Detroit Bridge Company using a skeletal system of wrought iron, oak, and steel structure. The skeleton is in marked contrast to the heavy stonework on the north and south sides of the building.
For further study, see the Library of Congress's website and locate the Historic American Building Survey for the Cleveland Arcade. These drawings were completed in 1962 by the School of Architecture for the Carnegie Institute of Technology. I'll read the notes of significance. The Cleveland Arcade is a particularly noteworthy example of the skylighted arcade, a building type that is one of the most unique contributions of the 19th century to the urban scene. Functionally and commercially, this prominent Cleveland structure is an arcade, for it provides a passageway between two large urban thoroughfares, and it contains many shops and offices rented to individual companies. But its tiers of galleries and dramatic use of interior space make it architecturally more akin to the light courts of the multi-storied commercial structures which were developed before the introduction of sufficiently brilliant interior artificial lighting. In construction, the arcade is mixed in technique and materials and reflects the rapid changes in high buildings constructed, which occurred in the 1880s and 1890s, the era that saw the birth of the skyscraper.